As a podcast guest, are you serious about sounding great when you're booked on a show? If so, this video is going to help you by showing you how to use tools that are already on your computer, whether it's Windows or Apple. They're easy to use. You don't have to do anything extra as far as buying stuff, and almost nobody is talking about these. What's happening, podcast guests? I'm Brian Ensminger. I'm a podcaster and a podcast editor, and I want to see you be successful with your podcast. And one thing I sometimes see is that people invest a good bit of time and money getting themselves booked on shows and investing in equipment and stuff like that. And then because of the way that things are recorded, maybe they don't come out sounding as good as they could. Now, if you're serious about being a podcast guest, you have a message that you want to share, you've identified people that could benefit from it, you've identified great hosts that would just really do a great job, and you've also started booking yourself as a guest on podcast. Maybe you've even invested in that sound equipment, an external microphone, headphones, that kind of stuff. You've done what you can to sound great, but there's still one part of this equation that you can't control, and that's the quality of the actual recording. You see, as a guest, you can't control the recording process. You can't identify which tools are going to be used. You're, I don't want to say at the mercy of the host, but it's their call, right? If they prefer Squadcast or Zencaster, that's what you're going to use. If they prefer Zoom.us or Clean Feed or Uber Conference or Skype or any number of other tools, that's what you're going to end up using. And regardless of which solution the host has chosen, regardless of the general quality of that tool, neither of you can ever truly control the stability and the speed of your internet connections, at least not completely. But I know that you still want to sound consistently great, or at least do all that you can to make that happen. So what do, right? Well, the best thing that you can do is to take control of how your part of the interview is going to sound by recording it on your side. If you're a podcast host as well, you can probably already use your preferred recording method. I like Hindenburg, so when I'm a guest on a show, I record myself using Hindenburg. But if you're not a regular podcast host and you don't want to download some free or paid software and learn how to use that, there's a little known trick that'll allow you to record yourself, and it's built right into your computer. It's already there, and almost nobody's talking about this kind of thing. It's going to work for either Mac or Windows, but it's a little bit different. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do it with the recommended settings in this short video. Now, as a note, I'm going to assume that you already have a good process and you practice good recording hygiene. You restart your computer, you do what you can to make sure that everything sounds great and that everything's in tip-top condition. So I'm only going to talk about the recording part here. I'm going to go ahead and show my screen. You get to watch my beautiful notes, and I'm going to just walk you through the process on an Apple computer. Then I'm going to switch over to a Windows computer and show you there. And then we're going to kind of wrap it up. So on an Apple computer, you're going to open the QuickTime player. I'm going to do that by just going to the search and typing in QuickTime. I've got QuickTime player. I'm going to go ahead and open that up, QuickTime player, and I'm going to, now you might not have known this before, but you can actually create a new screen flow or screen recording directly from QuickTime. You can record a new movie, or you can record just audio. So I'm going to hit a new audio recording, and then it's going to pop up a little menu. I'm going to drag that over. It's on the other screen. And on that menu, you can see that the bars are already moving as I'm talking, right? There's this little record button right here. Now, right next to that record button is a little drop-down arrow. That's where you're going to have the option to choose your interface. So we've opened this up. We're hitting the little drop-down arrow, and you're going to choose either the microphone or the interface that you're using. In my case, I've got a MixPre, so that's what I'm going to do. And then you're also going to select down here the quality. It can either be high or it can be maximum. For high, the quality is a compressed M4A format. If that doesn't mean anything to you, it's kind of similar to an MP3. And then the maximum is a higher quality file, but it's not quite as compatible. For most recordings, I'm going to go ahead and recommend that you set it as high unless you know how to convert the files to yourself to something that's more common, like a .wav format, so that you can send that to a host, because some hosts, if they don't have a professional editor working with them, may not know how to make that conversion. All right, so I've got that selected. Now, when we get on the session, about the same time that your host hits record, you're going to let them know, hey, I'm going to be recording my side as well. And then you're just going to take a second and you're just going to scratch or tap your microphone. I'm going to demonstrate that right here. And you're just making sure that you've got the right microphone selected. What that does is if your computer has accidentally selected the wrong microphone, when you're only slightly scratching this microphone here, it won't make that sound if it's selected the wrong microphone. So you've selected that. You're going to go ahead and hit record when it's time. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I've hit record and now it's recording, and I can see on the screen that these little bars are moving. So I know that I'm recording, and I can see that it's recording. And then if you can, before you start recording, maybe just snap or clap so that your host will have something to sync up the audio if they need to. Of course, you've let them know that you're recording, so they can expect that. When you're done, you're going to go ahead and hit stop, and you'll see that we've got an untitled recording. You'll go ahead and save that. So I'm going to hit Control S or Command S on a Mac computer. I'm going to choose a location. I've created a folder right here called Test Folder, and I'm going to just name it Test Recording. And I've now saved that, and it is in my folder. Now, I chose the the maximum quality recording, so that's a .AIFC, but I now have that recording available, and then I can send that to the podcast host when we're done recording. I can load it to Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever. I have that available. Now we're going to go ahead and switch over to the Windows computer. I'm going to demonstrate how to do that there, and then we're going to come back and wrap it up. All right, and now we're going to talk about how to do this recording on a Windows computer. You may not know this, but there's already an app built right into your Windows computer, just like QuickTime was built into the Apple computer, that's there that you can use to record your podcast guest appearance without having to download extra software. So I'm going to go ahead and run you through that. Just as a quick disclaimer, Macintosh is generally my jam when it comes to audio production. I do have a Windows computer, but I'm not quite as fluent with it. So I'm going to walk through this as best I can, but this will work for you. I have tested it. So the first thing you need to know is, unlike in QuickTime, you can't set your audio device. You can't select which microphone you want to use within the recording app. You're going to need to do that within your computer settings. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that you've already selected your default microphone. And I'm just going to go over to the search. I'm going to type in voice recorder. I've got the voice recorder app, and that's going to come up. I've already got a recording that I've made right here. And you'll see that there are some settings that we can use, some things like trimming and deleting. We also have the option to do some other stuff like microphone settings, which interestingly do not allow you to select which microphone. It's just whether or not the microphone can be accessed by the program, but that's there. Similar process. When it comes time to do your recording, you're going to go ahead and hit the big microphone that's down here. If there's no recording, I should go ahead and delete this recording. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. So the big microphone's right in the middle. When it's time to record, I'm going to go ahead and hit record. I'm going to tap or scratch on the microphone and just check to see that the bars are moving. These little circles right here indicate that the audio is going in. And then I'm going to either snap or clap to allow the guest or the host to have something to line things up to. And then we're just going to record the entire session on the computer, just like we did in QuickTime. When it's all done, we're going to go ahead and hit the stop button. It's going to take a couple seconds to convert it, and then we'll have a recording. If I go to where that recording is and I right click on it, I can open the file location, and then I can grab that recording and send it off to the podcast host, just like when we talked about the Macintosh process. So voice recorder app, we're going to go ahead and hit record, make sure that we've got the right microphone selected. We're going to record the session, hit stop, and then we'll send that file. Now I'm going to go ahead and run you through the last little bit of it. All right, so we've demonstrated on a Mac computer how to do this using QuickTime. We've also demonstrated on a Windows computer using the voice recorder. When we're all done with our recording, there's just a couple things left to do. First, as you're thanking the guest, or thanking the host rather, for allowing you to be a guest, just remind them that you always record a local copy of yourself, and you're going to make that available in the event that they want to use it. And then you'll upload that to your favorite file sharing service. I would recommend something like Google Drive or Dropbox, but you may have a preference. And then just ask them what email address you should send it to. You'll take that interview file, and you'll load it to your file sharing service, and then you'll just send them a note saying, thanks again. Here's the link to that file, and you may want to consider including a link to a free online conversion tool, something like freeconvert.com, and I'll have a couple of links for you in the description. Just as a note, check out the privacy policy and the terms of service yourself to make sure that you're comfortable with them. I looked over them. I didn't see anything that stood out to me, but you got to make the call for your privacy and your concerns right there. Now, you might be asking yourself, okay, I could go through all of this work and maybe the host isn't going to use it. And that is the reality. There is no guarantee that you'll sound great in the end and that they will use your recording. It might just not happen. For whatever reason, they may not use the file that you recorded. They may use even a lower quality recording that they made on their end. That's their choice. It's their show. But some of them will, and some of them will really appreciate that you're doing this, if for no other reason than they have a high quality backup that they can use in case something goes wrong. And either way, you're showing them that you are showing up as a professional, that you're doing what you can do to make sure that you're giving your very best to their audience, and then the rest is up to them. If you have questions for me or feedback about this, go ahead and hit me up. You can find me at toptieraudio.com. That's where you'll find a way to contact me, links to social profiles. You'll find more tutorial videos like this around other topics and more stuff. You'll even find a place where, if you want to, you can submit questions that you might have about podcast production or maybe suggestions for future video topics. If you found this video valuable, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. Maybe share it with somebody that you think would really benefit from this. And if you have comments, I would love to see those as well. You can just leave those in the video comments. This is Brian Ensminger. I'm reminding you to take control of the population and also the bad recording population by editing your show and doing what you can to make sure that you capture a great recording. Thanks so much for watching. Now go out there and make a great podcast.